Hello everyone, I'm Dr. Simran and this is the second video of the USMLE Step 1 Master Plan. So in the previous video, I told you how to start with your USMLE journey. First of all, you should have a firm decision that you want to go to US, and the second thing is that you should have the right resources. The third thing is that you should be having your ECFMG ID. Now, coming on to the second video, I want to tell you that you should have a target of reading the first aid, all right, along with the Uword. The target, the adequate amount of time that you read that you need for the first reading is around 4 months. And first of all, you should start your journey with general pathology. All right. General pathology is the subject which will help you to understand the general terminologies. And trust me, Pathoma lectures have beautifully explained the general pathology. The first three chapters of the Pathoma are so beautifully organized, and Dr. Satar makes you understand them in a very nice way. After the general pathology, you should proceed with the microbiology. Now, coming on to the microbiology, in the last video also, I told you that microbiology is heavily underrated. Why did I say underrated? Because, see, microbiology is linked to a lot of things, a lot of systems. The first system it is linked to is pharmacology. I say pharmacology because the antibiotics that you need to do to treat the organism is linked to the microbiology. If you know the organism well, then you know the antibiotic very well, right? And it is also linked to the step 2 CK. It is linked to a system in step 2 CK, that is infectious diseases. Infectious diseases is such a lengthy system. When you start, preparing for your CK, it's very lengthy system. And you'll get to know that if you have mastered infectious diseases, if you have mastered the microbiology, you can master infectious diseases as well. All right. Now, coming on to the further process. See, for step 3 also, you should be knowing the basics about an organism. All right, supposing they say you Staph aureus, you should be knowing it's a gram-positive organism. It is very much implicated in formation of the abscesses, right? For step 2 also, you should be knowing it also causes abscesses and impetigo. So you should be knowing something basic about that organism so that you can, easily identify that in the question. It's not about identifying the organism to arrive at a particular answer, but if you don't know the organism, you cannot tell the particular disease linked with it. You cannot tell about the particular antibiotic which you have to give. Supposing pseudomonas is a gram negative organism, correct? For pseudomonas you need to give an antibiotic which is acting against the gram negative bacteria, not the gram positive bacteria. So these basics should be very clear for you. Now I have written here also that infectious diseases in the step 2 CK and step 3 are like the mountain, and to reach that peak of the mountain we need to have a strong base which will be consolidated only if you master the microbiology. Alright, and you should be integrating microbiology with pharmacology and medicine as well as pathology. Then only you will realize the importance of microbiology. When you integrate these systems and you would be able to easily solve the questions, you would be really thanking me for this video. Once you know the disease causing organism, you will know the presentation of the disease as well, and you should also you will be able to know which antibiotic to prefer for that organism. After completing the microbiology from the first aid, you should go ahead with solving the online Uword questions. See, this is the interface of the Uword, all right? And the interface of the Uword is much similar to that of the actual exam. Our actual exam also looks like this. These are the tabs that are given here, all right? That's why they say that, Uword simulates the actual exam in the way the interface is same. And this is how the score reporting comes out for the step 1 exam. They tell you about your weak areas, your stronger performance areas, as well as they tell you the average scores also. Now the next question arises that how you should solve the Uword for USMLE step 1. This is such a big topic. Uword forms the fundamental resource for the step 1 preparation. In fact, for step 2 CK also, Uword is very important. So the first and the foremost thing you should be doing is to subscribe the Uword for 6 months. In the previous video, I told you that you should be going ahead for the 6 months, right? Because it will be saving your money, you will have the reset option, and you can save all your flashcards also. And effective preparation requires at least 2 passes of the Uword. You need to, just go through Uword thoroughly at least 2 times. The first pass of the Uword you should do in a tutor mode. Now see, there are various modes of the Uword. One is the tutor mode, the other is the timed tutor mode, and the third one is the testing mode. So the difference between all these modes is that tutor mode without timing, this you can take your own time. This is very beneficial for the first time. Okay, if you are solving Uword for the first time, you don't need the timer running in the background, because the first time you are understanding the concepts. You are using the Uword as a learning tool for the first time. Right? Now coming on to the timed tutor mode. This can help you in revision. The testing mode as well as the timed tutor mode, it will help you in the revision. Now let me tell you the one more difference. The tutor mode gives you the answers immediately. Okay, supposing you did a question wrong, you will immediately get to see the other options and why that option is wrong. You will see the explanations immediately. Whereas in case of the testing mode, you will have to solve the whole block first of all. And after completion, supposing you created a block of 10 questions or 5 questions, okay, after answering all the 5 questions, after that only you will be able to see the answers. So that is how it goes. So it is much better, the testing mode is much better for the Uword if you are revising the Uword for the third or the fourth time. It's not a better option when you are doing Uword for the first or the second time, because you don't need a timer. You need to understand the concepts. You need to review the concepts and your weak areas rather than testing yourself. So this is how you can choose the different modes on Uword. Uword is having tutor and time, so you can just choose the tutor mode, alright, and you will be able to visualize the answers immediately after answering. So the question modes are further divided. So this option shows you all, like the total number of questions. Supposing there are 1600 questions, so it will show you all questions. So if you want to solve questions from the total number rather than just doing the unused or incorrect, you can choose this option. If you want to only solve the questions that are remaining unused, you can choose this option. If you want to only solve those which are incorrect, you can choose this option. And marking, I told you in the previous video that you will be seeing a flag in front in the topmost tab for the marking the question, right? If you can mark the question, you will be easily able to spare these questions for a later on review. See, the first pass of the Uword requires you to use the Uword as a learning tool. This I already told you. And these modes also I explained you: tutor mode, time tutor mode, and timed testing mode. So the tutor mode will serve the purpose for the first and the second reading. The tutor mode means that there is no timer running in the background. Alright, so you get all the time to learn and understand the concepts and read the question stem very carefully. Now, set a target for short-term goals. The next strategy for using the Uword is set a target for short-term goals. I always say that you should always have short-term goals, because they prevent you from frustration. In fact, once you achieve the short-term goal, you will feel more rewarded. Your reward centers in the brain would be activated and you will feel more happy. So in the actual exam, the one block consists of 40 questions. This is what happens during the actual exam. But it does not mean that if you are solving Uword, you will have to create a block of 40 questions. No. What most of the students do is they create a block of 40 questions. I also did the same mistake. In the beginning, I used to create a block of 40 questions. And what happened was, during the first 20 questions, I was very active, and the remaining 20 questions, I was very sleepy. So I used to solve first 20 questions with, active mind, but the remaining 20 questions were just being solved for the sake of formality to get the answers. So this is such a wrong strategy. You should never follow it. Remember, always start your block with 10 questions or 20 questions. It's not that your exam consists of 40 questions. No. You first of all have to clear your concepts. Your goal is not to simulate the exam. Your goal is to clear your concepts. If you know the concepts, you will be easily able to solve any question that they ask. Alright? So, first of all, you should know how to set the short-term goals. Right? How do they work? See, the short-term goals act as a placebo. In fact, a mental placebo. By that I mean that even if you create a block of 5 questions, once you complete the review of those 5 questions, you will be having a feeling of great accomplishment. That's what I told you, that the reward centers in your brain would be activated. You will get a feeling that you solved one block of Uword even if you solved just 10 questions, right? And the reward centers in your brain will get activated, and it will motivate you to solve more and more questions. The first thing, the motivation you require will come from here. And the second thing is that the block of 10 or 20 questions, not the 40 questions, because if you create 40 questions, the first 20 questions are done with great enthusiasm, but the remaining 20 questions are treated as alien and are solved by being half asleep and frustrated. This is the core reality. Trust me, it has happened to me. I used to create a block of 40 questions. During the first 20 questions I was active, and during the last 20 questions I was half asleep. So there is no use of solving such long blocks when you are solving for the sake of understanding, right? Now supposing you get this type of question, alright, in Uword. So first of all, you should be knowing how to approach a question in Uword. Alright. The first and the foremost strategy for solving Uword is reading the last line of the Uword question in the beginning itself. So I'll tell you a reality. In the beginning, what I used to do was, I used to read the whole question, and in my mind I was in a different word. I used to form my own diagnosis while thinking and reading about the question. And what happened in the end, they used to tell the diagnosis in the question. So that was such a frustrating movement that I spent my time in making a diagnosis, and they have themselves told the diagnosis in the question itself. So that wasted a lot of time. So the strategy that I followed was that I started reading the last line of Uword question in the beginning itself, right? So this question, look at this question carefully. This question asks about the most likely predisposing factor for pyelonephritis in this patient. That means they have told you that this patient is having pyelonephritis. What is pyelonephritis? Pyelonephritis is the ascending infection. Supposing someone is having the UTI, right? Lower UTI, cystitis. Cystitis means inflammation of the bladder. And that infection ascends upwards to the ureters and the kidneys. Renal parenchyma is involved. That means it is pyelonephritis, and the symptoms of pyelonephritis are flank pain, costovertebral angle tenderness, fever, most importantly, plus the features of the UTI like cystitis, increased frequency, right? Increased frequency of urination, burning micturition, dysuria. These are the symptoms of pyelonephritis. Now, if I would have wasted the time in arriving at a diagnosis, that would have been such a loophole, because now I know that they have already given the diagnosis, but he wants to ask you something else. He wants to ask you that which factor is increasing the risk of pyelonephritis in this patient. See, she is a young female. She is having recurrent episodes of UTI. Okay, she already had 5 episodes of cystitis, 1 episode of pyelonephritis in the last year itself. And these occur more after the sexual intercourse. No medical history, no medication history. Every vital is normal, right? The abdominal and the genitourinary examination is also normal, which predisposing factor for pyelonephritis is there in the question. The next strategy is to rule out the options. See, even if you don't know any precipitating factor for pyelonephritis, your strategy should be to rule out the options. Ruling out. This is very important strategy for the exam point of view. Okay. Now let us, handle quickly the options one by one. Do you think frequent voiding would have led to pyelonephritis? Guys, frequent voiding would wash off the bacteria. It is in fact helpful for us if the frequent voiding is happening. Okay, so it's completely wrong. Now coming on to the second thing. Hematogenous bacterial spread. They have already told in the question that this patient had a lot of episodes of cystitis and pyelonephritis in the previous time also. So hematogenous bacterial spread doesn't seem to be a assuring answer for this question. So you cut this one also, right? Now these three options are left. Suppression of the endogenous flora. When do you think suppression of the endogenous flora will occur? This will only occur if the patient recently had taken the antibiotic. And in the question, they have clearly written that she is not taking any medication and no history of any previous medication or infection has been given. Right? So, she also did not take any antibiotic. Now coming on to the urethral colonization. Urethral colonization. So do you think a normal urethral colonization, urethra is already having the colonization, right? Because in females what happens, the urethra is in very close proximity to the anus, right? So that means the organisms are already thriving there. But remember, urethral colonization alone won't lead to the recurrent pyelonephritis and UTIs. Okay, so the only option left we have is vesico-urethral urine reflux. What happens in vesico-urethral urine reflux? Supposing this is the bladder. Okay, the ureter opens into the posterior wall of the bladder. This is known as the vesico-ureteric junction. Okay, supposing this is the ureter. So what happens is the urine from the bladder goes up. Okay, there is a reflux of the urine from the bladder to the ureter due to a number of reasons. Alright, so this is a kind of structural abnormality, and if this reflux keeps on happening, obviously it will lead to recurrent UTIs, recurrent pyelonephritis. So this is the answer, this is the correct answer for this question. Okay, so in this question he asks about the factor that led to the pyelonephritis. Now the strategy helps you to save time, as sometimes you keep on reading the question stem and start imagining the diagnosis, and most of the times in between the question stem they themselves tell you the diagnosis. So imagine wasting so much of time thinking about something which has already been told, right? So this is how I explained you to how to solve this question. So the next strategy is, whenever you read a question, always check the age group. Always check the age group, and always check if the patient is coming to the normal clinic, or to the emergency department. Because if you get to know that this patient is coming to the emergency department, that means some emergent situation is there, and you can think in that situation, in that way. If he's coming to the normal clinic, that means nothing emergent is there. Okay, so your mindset shifts towards the emergency situations if the patient comes to the emergency department. All right, so here I have explained how to rule out the options and how to go ahead with the question. So remember, there are certain age groups and sexes in which many diseases are very common, right? So this question is telling you about the recurrent UTI infection in a young reproductive age group female, right? So I have already told you pyelonephritis is the infection of the renal parenchyma due to the ascending infection. So there has to be something that is being compromised, that was previously used to prevent this ascending infection, right? And that structure is vesico-ureteric junction. The vesico-ureteric junction gets compromised in case of vesico-ureteric reflux, and urine ascends upward, leading to the infection. All right. So this is all about today's video, and there are a lot of other strategies as well, which I would be explaining you in the coming videos. So I will be making around 4 to 5 parts of this video because this is quite lengthy. So we would be proceeding with each and every strategy in so much of detail that it gives clarity to your mind that how to go ahead with the USMLE step 1 preparation, because I never used to find one video which used to give me the whole idea about step 1 preparation. But I will do my best and I will try to tell you every strategy to follow to solve Uword and to follow other resources as well. So I hope you like these types of videos. Please show some love in the comments, and I will be back with the another video really soon. Bye bye, take care.